How's everybody doing? You guys doing all right? All right, it's exciting. It's a lot of y'all out there. That's great. That's great. Well, I know you're not here for me. You guys have quite a treat before you today to get to hear from really the industry's finest. And here at Full Sail, that's what we do, right? And so I've got some special guests here that I want to make sure I give some moments to that you guys can acknowledge their greatness as they're in your midst. And so first, I'd like to give you guys to welcome Demo Castellon, sitting to the far end here. He's a mix engineer and 2010 Hall of Fame inductee. Next to Demo, we have Dylan Dresdow, who was there you go. He's a mix engineer, and he's a 2012 Hall of Fame inductee. Next to him, DJ Swivel. He's a producer, mixer, engineer, and 2005 recording arts graduate. Leslie Brathwaite's up next. Mix engineer and 2010 Hall of Fame inductee. And right next to me here, we have Mr. Phil Tan, who's a mix engineer and 2009 Hall of Fame inductee. All right, so before we get started here, a couple of things I want to mention. There were a group of individuals that, as all of you guys have gone out over the last 24 hours or so, 24 to 36 hours, and taken upon yourself to show your creativity, in terms of the challenge that was put forth before you to remix this material, and I'm trusting that you guys had a great time doing that. So we've had a team of people that have gone through and actually prejudged the material that you did submit and have taken those dozens of submissions and narrowed them down to the top 6, which we'll go through here today. But I do want to acknowledge those individuals that were involved in the prejudging: Ryan Summers, Tom Hughes, Vite Wren, Brad Barbie, and John Yandel. If you guys could give them a hand. And also special thanks to Indaba Music and Mantis Ever for the use of their tracks that you guys were remixing to in the song. The song was Ferry Cortson's Back to Paradise. So if you'll give them a hand as well. All right, so just to give you guys a little bit of an overview of what we'll do here today, we'll play through the tracks individually. And we'll give these guys here time to make comments on the sheets that they have before them and score the remix. And then they'll have a moment or two to provide some feedback directly to the remixer. And then we'll take a few minutes at the end to give them a moment to huddle up and decide who the contest winner is. And we'll come back and announce that to you guys. Sound good? All right. So first up, our first contestant is Daniele Drucker and Miguel Murasia, I believe is how you pronounce that. So if we're ready to go. Should we hear the original? We'll do that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's pull the original up. Yep, we'll do that. So if we're ready to go, this is the original track. All right. So you guys got that reference point in your head? All right, great. So first up, Danielle Drucker and Miguel Marc submitted the first remix here that we will listen to and get you guys feedback on. All right. So are Danielle and Miguel, are you guys actually here today? Some of these were submitted online, so they may not. Okay, I see a couple of you guys back there. Great job, great job. So turn to my panelists here. Anyone like to go first? Provide some comments?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Okay. All right.
it's remixes you can get really, really creative with, and I like the fact that it was fresh, that it wasn't just 4 on the floor or 128 BPM kind of thing that we've seen over and over. This remix felt too long to me. I'm not afraid of long remixes, and that's part of even like DJ culture, back in the day whenever they had vinyl. I'm sure Swivel's done this, where you had to like put the 2 records together. It was great to have really long songs so you could blend them together. Yeah. We don't have to do that because we have Serato now, and we don't need to deal with any of that. This song just felt like, especially at the end, it just drug on and really kind of got boring. I also thought the first build that came in was just a little bit too uneventful. Like, it really was like a missed opportunity to kind of sell it, whenever everything did come in after the big drop. The other thing is, whenever the drop did happen, the main line that is kind of the only thing that's really standing out, and I felt like that made it a little bit sparse. If that was a more interesting part, it could have stood by itself, but I would have added some more layers to this, maybe a bass line that had really kind of stood out a bit more to drive that section. I think that would have sold it a lot better. Everything sounds really good, at least everything that I've heard in here. I don't really have any mixed comments. I think it sonically was pretty tight.
One thing I'll say is I think part of the reason it dragged on was it was the slow tempo the whole time, and that's cool, but usually when you're having a remix done, it's to reach a different radio format or work in the clubs or something like that, and I don't see this being played in any of those arenas so much because it was in cut time, because it was in halftime. I think maybe if part of the track, maybe in the drop, it went to double time back to 128 or whatever it was, I would have liked to hear something like that, only because I understand what the purpose of a remix is eventually supposed to be. Having said that, that's not really part of this competition, but it was just something I thought about. Snare was a little loud too on the mix side, I think.
And to add to that, to sum up what both Dylan and Swivel said, I just don't think that the track itself was eventful enough. I wanted more events. I wanted more things to happen. I felt like the verses, especially the first verse, but in particular both verses, were a little low. I wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about what was being said so that it could kind of set the mood a little more for me. And that was about it.
Yeah, the original does that. If you listen to the original, the original is, to be frank, I think it's just better. And if you go back and compare the two, like Swivel was saying, this may be cool if you're a DJ and you're playing like a museum, like an art opening or something like that. It may be appropriate for that kind of thing. But that is a really small market, And if I was A&R, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for something like that, because that's almost setting yourself up, it's going to be like a B side, as opposed to something that you can kind of, like you said, reach a new market that's going to be you want that to be a bigger audience, not a smaller one, unless you're trying to make somebody get street cred or something like that, but this obviously isn't trying to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for those comments. Anything else?
My turn. I like it, personally, for me. I thought I applaud you for taking it in a different approach, because that's always, for me, a good sign of a remix, when you just get a whole different perspective of it. I think you had a really good idea with the bounce you were going for. For me, I felt like you did it, and you were like, maybe while you were doing it, you're like, oh, I don't know if this is really going. Like, the moment you decided to go in that direction, you should have went all in. Because I personally, for me, it had a little bit of a bounce to it that I really liked. I thought the melody line that you went with worked well. I thought the biggest issue for me, and it's probably some of the issues that is affecting their decision too, is the arrangement. Just the arrangement didn't really, there's a lot of missed opportunities, like Dylan said, that could have really gone there. And the thing that makes the original so dope is that the sections are really defined. Like, when they come in, you're like, oh snap, now it's going to the build. Now the verses are coming. Your verses were low too, by the way, but now the verses are coming. And then you had another opportunity where you started cutting up the vocal, but you like teased it and then you went out. So you didn't really commit to it 100%. I think if you go back in and revisit it and really work on the arrangement of it, I think you might have something for me.
I have a question. Sure. How were the tracks given to you? Were the vocals already processed?
Right.
Everything was...
They got the stems. Only because I was there the day that it was announced. All the stems were sent, and the only rule was one stem from the original had to be used. Didn't matter which one, didn't even have to be the vocals. One stem had to be used. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Great. Well, let's give Daniele and Miguel a hand again on that. And I do want to comment to say for all of you guys that have gone and done this, I mean, you're in essence putting your heart out there to get feedback provided on that. So I commend you guys, and I think we all do, for taking that step. Feedback is such a critical and essential part of our industry, to be able to do that, and so to be able to receive that from these guys that have gone the distance, it's a very, very valuable thing, even though it's probably pretty frightening to be able to hear some of the comments from time to time. But if you take that to heart, it's bound to make you a better producer and remixer at the end of the day. So our second person up is going to be William Hirsch, and let's take a listen to William's remix. All right, who's up first?
I'll speak. Great job. I love that the tempo transitioned. I thought that was really cool and original. The vocal chops in the beginning, also really dope. And the drop, the build up and the drop felt really good to me. Actually, I really don't have anything bad to say. The only thing I will say is the end, the purpose of the outro of a remix like this is to make it really easy for a DJ to transition into another song. So when you go into the outro, I think you should have left it at 128. Personally, just it'll make it easier for the DJ to transition out. But outside of that, it felt good. Yeah, great.
My main issue with the mix is the compression. The kick, and I don't know if it's just this room or the system, so I take this with a grain of salt, but the release isn't quite right. It's bleeding over into the next beat, so it feels it's slowing it down. And also the master compression is a little bit too much, or you didn't quite get it right to where when the drop happens, it actually feels like it's quieter.
Yep.
Because everything's kind of being squashed. So, something to work on, but good job.
Yeah, it sounds like if I had to guess, somebody put Pro L on their 2 mix and they just jacked the threshold like crazy. I mean, I know DJs do that a lot these days, but if you take the song and you reference against Deadmau5 and Daft Punk and Steve Dutta, they're going to clean your clock because of the dynamic range that they have in their songs. The ending I hated. That was the only part about it I really didn't like. I thought the ending could have been a much more solid ending because there was so much cool stuff in here. Whoever did this had some really good technical stuff behind them to be able to do all the vocal chops and the tempo changes. You don't hear a lot of tempo changes these days, and so that was really creative. I thought that was really great. The claps, this could also be part of the compression thing. I thought they could have come up. That was a little bit of a missed opportunity. You hear the clapping, and you just have to close your eyes when you hear these songs and envision how people are going to receive this at a club, and that's driving it. You want to see a whole bunch of kids clapping and dancing and having just partying their, craziness. I'm trying not to curse, but having a really good time, right? And the claps really help bring that excitement level there. And to me, they seem like an afterthought, and they're way in the background. They should be up more in the foreground, and even better if you can ride those up so that they help build up to the drop. Mix-wise, yeah, I think that a lot of the issues could have been taken care of by backing off some of the compression and definitely some of the limiting. That seemed to kind of put an overall smear on everything to me. And so mix-wise, I would just back that off and let your drums kind of come out and do their thing. This one almost felt like it was lower in volume, even though it seemed like the loudness perception was trying to be a lot louder. I wouldn't play into that game, at least on this remix. Remixes you can you don't have to fall into the loudness wars things as much because DJs are going to be able to adjust their levels while they're doing their thing anyway. So I wouldn't fall into let's just put a whole bunch of limiting crap on my 2 mix. I just wouldn't do that for something like this. I think it would instantly sound a lot better. So I would try that, But I thought it was really creative and very original.
My comments are pretty much summing up what Dylan and Phil and Swivel said. I enjoyed the production a little more than I enjoyed the mix. I think the things in the mix that could make it a little more exciting. And I definitely agree with the ending part. I didn't like how it ended. I felt like it could have had that strong ending and just keep going. And for that reason, that Swivel said, to help the transition of that record into another record. But overall, good job.
Is William here? It's you? Okay. You threw the kitchen sink at this thing, huh? Well, a couple things. Off the jump, it got me. I like the whole Daft Punk direction you were going for in the beginning. It was really cool. It did throw me for a loop, though, when you switched it up, which I think is a good thing. I think there is a lot there going on. I think you kind of did 2 remixes in one. Kudos to you. The tempo changes are great. It's really great. It's really creative. Tempo changes, we need more of that because it keeps you really engaged. The mix notes, they hit it on the money. I have the same thing. I think if you're gonna have all those parts, though, you should think about making this an extended version and let those parts breathe more. And then make a shorter version that maybe has one of those sections out. Maybe keep the Daft Punk section out and then keep the other parts where it's at. Just ideas that you can use. And definitely the ending, you want to keep that at 128. or whatever is your tempo is that you're setting, because you start messing with the tempo at the end, it's going to throw DJ off and they're going to hate you. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Good job, though.
Okay. Great job. Let's give William another hand. All right, our next contestant, we have Marcelo Martin, and here's his remix. All right. So is Marcelo here today? Online, perhaps?
Yes,
Okay.
no, online.
All right. Awesome. Well,
For me, just instantly the first thing that jumped out to me, I kept waiting for something to happen that didn't happen.
The
I
whole
don't know
time.
if anybody else felt that.
The
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
time.
It was like
this
I
was
was
a very linear
I
thing.
kept
and-
waiting for something to happen, and I thought it was going to happen with the drums. I thought it was going. Something just didn't happen. I kind of feel opposite of this one that I felt of the last one, which is I kind of enjoyed the mix a little more than the production on this one. Yeah, and I'll leave some more comments from everybody else.
For me, wherever Marcelo is, it kind of, I gave it the benefit of the doubt until that moment when the drop was supposed to happen. I think at that point, it should have happened or something should have happened. It was just way, no one would listen to a song for that long. You need some exciting to happen. So I think you put the excitement in it, you'll be all right.
Yeah, it seems like the direction of this was trying to be like a mood lighting remix kind of thing. Like it's just supposed to be all vibe. And the problem with that is there's just not enough interest in the vibe that's created. And so the landscape is just flat, is just very flat. Mix-wise, the only thing that did bug me on the vocals, for some reason, they seemed a little bit more piercing on this one. I don't know if that was like a 2K thing or even maybe in some de-essing that might help that, but there was some additional processing, I think, to the vocal in this one that was kind of bugging my ears a little bit. I also hated the ending because it was, again, nothing happened. I mean, there should have been a real big payoff here. But otherwise, everything did sound pretty good. Everything was pretty dynamic, and I kind of agree with Leslie that the mix was stronger than the production.
Yeah, I was just bored. It didn't, like everyone said, it just didn't do anything. A remix is supposed to add a level of excitement from the original record. The whole concept is to hit new radio formats and do new things, and I don't know where this would be played or how it would be used. So I wasn't really. I mean, the mix was pretty decent. I didn't hear a whole lot of major issues. It's hard to tell in this room, but yeah, I couldn't even get to the mix point because I couldn't get through the record. So.
Just a couple of things to point out about the mix. And again, in this room, the way we're sitting, it's hard to say, but the bass sounded uneven. Like some notes were louder than others. So just maybe watch out for that. And in the middle section where there's a side chaining going on, it's off time too. So watch out, watch out for that kind of stuff. So, but, we're all here to learn. So I'm sure I could do something with that, and you'll have plenty to say too. So, but
It's all subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point to emphasize. Is not we don't sit up here like we're the end all be all, and we all approach our careers like we're learning. We have our opinions. It's subjective. We do have experience. We are sitting here for a reason. We have worked, for years and years and have gained some experience, but don't take the criticism and the comments the wrong way. So.
Yeah, but take this criticism is go back and do it again. You know what I'm saying? Don't just do it again. I think if you do it again, take some consideration, sit with it. I think it'll be a lot better, leaps and bounds. So go ahead and remix it.
great. Thank you, guys. Another hand for Marcelo. All right, our fourth submission comes from Avery McFarland, and here's Avery's remix.
These are the years that will be forever in our memory of a life in ecstasy, climbing to the top of the world. As soon as the hourglass will run out, we'll fill it up again, till we leave them wondering how we'll always be the way we are. And when you lose your eyes, till we leave them wondering how we'll always be the way we are, we are, we are. And when you carry you back when you
Go ahead and jump in. Would they ever like to go first?
Go. Man, that joker was flying.
Yeah, yeah, like
I don't know. I think you're at 190. I think there's some cool stuff in there, but that's a little bit too fast. I don't know how the hell you dance to that. Tempo is extremely important, especially in remixes. It's cool if you don't want to stay in the original tempo. Just if you're going for something specifically, it has to be very clear. Because I definitely don't know where you could play that. It's soaring. So I would probably kick that back maybe like 20 BPMs or 10 BPMs and then see how that sounds.
It kind of felt like it was trying to be halfway between like Square Pusher to like Imogen Heap or something like that a little bit to me, where, like Swivel's been saying, like, where do you envision this being played? And it's difficult sometimes with some of these things for me to kind of see what kind of nightclub is this going to be cool in. You know, some of these clubs are more underground, and that's fine. Mix-wise, I thought the vocals were way too low in a lot of sections. I thought they could have been automated very creatively to kind of like sell them a little bit more, especially where they're doing some cool parts. I mean, I thought that, that could have been pretty cool. There were a couple weird delay things. I don't know if that's this room or what's going on, but it almost felt like some stuff was getting a little bit phasey, but I'm just guessing that was probably the room. Just check your stuff in mono, make sure your stuff isn't collapsing apart and stuff.
So it kept my attention. I was definitely interested. It's not something that I personally liked, but that's just we all have different tastes. But I did keep my attention, so that was good. And just sort of following up on what they said. It felt a little fast, but at the end of the day, I know in EDM, there's genres like drum and bass and things like that that are really fast. So if that's what you're going for, then I get it. So that didn't bother me too much. Not my taste, but it did keep my attention, so that was good.
yeah. If you were going for speed, you won. Definitely won. Yeah, not too much on my end either. Couple of things. I definitely agree with Dylan on the vocals. I got lost in a couple of places, and the important thing about, in my opinion, any genre, I don't care what genre it is, if there are words in the song, at some point you're trying to evoke emotion and you're trying to communicate something, and I need to at least be able to hear stuff. I understand creatively that sometimes decisions are made and it's a vibe and blah blah blah, but that's to me that's one of the important things in any genre is you got to kind of want to hear what's being communicated. So on the mix tip, I agree with Dylan on the vocal being a little too low thing.
I mean, especially on the sweeps, those were really cool parts, and we didn't get to hear that they were cool parts. You sold yourself short, you know what I mean? Like, you did something cool and you didn't show it off.
Right.
Like, you gotta be bold with this stuff and make sure that you're making a name for yourself. You did something cool, show off that it's cool, you know what I mean? Those are like really cool parts that we just got lost in translation, so.
My main issue with that was, and again, this is a creative thing, the piano sound didn't fit to me. So it didn't, so I don't know what it is, but that particular tone just doesn't fit with what the rest of the
Felt a bit like a toy piano or
exactly.
something. Yeah.
So it needs to be a little bit more serious. The bass is too loud, and I think that's part of the reason why that contributes to the vocal being kind of low. So, but those are the two things that stood out to me.
Let's give another hand to Avery McFarland. All right, our fifth contestant, Sudeep Sinha. Sudeep, are you in the house today? It's tough to see out there. Okay, perhaps online, but let's listen to Sudeep's remix.
These are the years that will be forever in our memory of a life in ecstasy, climbing to the top of the world. As soon as the hourglass will run out, we'll fill it up again, till we leave them wondering how we'll always be the way we are. And when you lose your eyes, lost your faith, I'll carry you back when you lose your way, lose your face, lost your faith, I'll take you back to paradise. These are the years that will be forever in our memory of a life in ecstasy, climbing to the top of the world. As soon as the hourglass will run out, we'll fill it up again, till we leave them wondering how we'll always be the way we are. And when you lose your eyes, lost your faith, I'll take you back to paradise.
Go right ahead.
About that one to say. I mean, sounds great. It's probably the most complete from top to finish. Not particularly super creative, but conceptually is good. Sounds musical. I like it.
Yeah. The only thing that bothered me, just off the top, is there were parts when I wanted to hear a kick that I didn't, or parts. But and like I said, that's a subjective thing. It's just there were parts that I felt like the beat was coming and then it didn't come, and I was waiting for it a little longer. But overall, I kind of liked it, from top to bottom as well.
I agree with them. The one thing I'll say, some of the sounds feel dated. The kick drum especially, it feels like a dance record from the 90s, which you don't really hear very often anymore. The mix felt good. The arrangement felt good. The parts felt good. I just think newer sounds, more modern production style for something like this would have been great. So.
Yeah, I thought there was actually too much use of delay. I didn't like the delay on the kick drum at all. I thought having the kick drum just go boom, 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 that's supposed to be impact, like clobber you over the head, right? And get somebody's attention, and these delays are distracting me from all of that stuff. I'd kill that altogether. There was a weird sidechain thing, I thought, that kind of threw the groove off whenever the drop came in. And the second half of the drop, where the snaps come in, I kind of wanted to hear more of the 2 and the 4 on there. I felt like that was just kind of like an afterthought, and I it shouldn't be too loud, but I thought that that was like a little bit of a good kind of opportunity to drive things, because otherwise these drops get boring really quickly. I mean, that's one of the things that I hear a lot of remixes from some of the younger DJs and stuff, and they basically kind of put together loops, and they can come up with the coolest loop ever, but it can get kind of boring in this kind of a structure. And so having those little elements come in like the second time around keeps you from falling into that pitfall. So just be mindful of it. If you disagree with it, then go with your gut. And but I would have jacked up those snaps in the second half a little bit more to drive that section. What do you think, Demo?
Sudeep, are you here by chance? No? Okay. I'm with Swivel 100%, is that the sounds are just dated. It could have worked maybe 5 years ago, but right now that everything is good about it, but you would definitely have to up the
10 years.
10, there you go.
Yeah.
He knows more than I do, so 10 years.
Get some vengeance sounds.
Yeah, you need to just to step up the sounds a little bit, but everything else is really, really good. It really sounds really complete. It sounded like a really good remix, so it's a good start.
All right.
Oh, and I loved the ending. The ending was, I loved the butt ending.
Yeah, it was
Pretty dope.
unexpected. I like that too.
Yeah, okie doke. So it was cool.
Good. All right. Thank you, guys. One more hand for Sudeep. And so our sixth and final finalist submission comes from Brian Taylor. Brian, are you here in the room? There's Brian. All right. So let's take a listen to Brian's submission.
climbing to the top of the world. As soon as the hourglass will run out, we'll fill it up again, till we leave them wondering.
So if you are going to do a slow remix, you kind of do it like this, because at least it can live on a movie soundtrack or something. Like rhythmically, there was some weird stuff. I wished I heard a kick. I mean, it was in there, but it was so low. Maybe that was the point. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I liked creatively, it was cool. You definitely went for the ambient vibe, which is good. So at least you went all the way there. But yeah, other than the movie soundtrack, I don't know where this lives, personally.
Yeah, I wrote down like end credit. Like I could envision this
Exactly.
kind of being played in the end credits at the end of a movie or something. It was way too open for me. I know that it's kind of an ambient thing, but I liked some of the cool vocal effects, but there was just so much freaking sub that sounded like a dump truck kind of driving by outside, and there needs to be either some kind of harmonic information on top of that to give it definition. I guarantee if you played this on Oratones, you wouldn't think there's a kick on it. So you have to make sure this is going to translate a little bit better from system to system. It's definitely not doing that right now. I mean, that was the one thing that was really distracting to me. And whenever it's this open, you really kind of want to have stuff like that in there to kind of fill in, long sustained things that fill in gaps. And all I kind of heard was somebody bumping into a microphone or something is almost what it reminded me of. I mean, you guys might agree, disagree, I don't know, but it was real distracting to me.
It's for me, the kick. Yes, that's one thing. It doesn't feel there's any kind of anchor to the mix. And two, it seems like you're not. If for ambient stuff, if you're working with a lot of echoey type of stuff, then you got to really focus on making the echoes or reverbs to be different. A lot of it sounds kind of samey, so everything kind of washes and waters out into each other. So start paying attention to that kind of stuff as far as layering your effects. That I like the backwards effects that you did in the intro, so that was kind of interesting to listen to. But that's it for me.
For me, I definitely agree with Phil on the nothing anchored me in the mix. Nothing made it cohesive for me, and I felt a little lost in there. I agree with the Dylan and Swivel on the you hear it on the end of a soundtrack or the end of a movie or something like that. There is a place for it if a couple things are addressed. I was bit lost on a couple things. Some rhythmic things, definitely, like Swivel said, definitely bothered me. Some timing things. But I think my strongest point would be what Phil said, that where you want something in the mix and in the song, in the production and the mix, to give you an anchor, to kind of make it cohesive, to make you, for lack of a better way to put it, I mean, just in when you think of any genre of music, there's something driving the song, there's something driving the beat, driving the song, and I just didn't feel that.
Brian, that's a pretty good intro, man, that you came up with. I think you set the bar high for yourself coming in, but if you're gonna set the bar that high, man, you gotta deliver. I mean, that intro really was promising, and then when the rest of it came in, it was like, oh, okay, he's gonna go somewhere else, and there's a lot of opportunity there. I would go revisit that, without a doubt. That the kick, I mean, I thought you were gonna go more trap with it. I thought there was gonna be an 808 or something that was just gonna come in and clobber us. So, not saying you need to put an 808 in there, but the kick definitely needs to hold that down, because without that, the other thing too, without having the kick so prominent, maybe or not, some of those vocals were just, stuff was just out of sync. They weren't really locked in. I don't know if you did that on purpose or what it is, but if you are doing that on purpose, then put the kick up so we know you're doing it on purpose. So besides that, I mean, definitely it's a good starting point. I'd go back and revisit it though, because there's definitely a lot of promise, especially with that intro. You were onto something there.
All right, let's give Brian another hand. So those were the 6 finalists chosen. So now we'll take a few moments, give our judges some time to compare notes and deliberate, and we'll be back in just a moment to announce the winner. to go. But before we get into that, let's give our finalists another round of applause. That's great. As I mentioned before, for any of you guys that have ever created anything, but especially on the music side, whether it's write a song or submit some type of production to someone for feedback, you know what moment of trepidation is sometimes upon you, as you're listening to someone comment on your mixes. So again, I just commend you guys for being willing to submit your material, and for everyone that participated in the competition. Kudos for being willing to do that, and congrats on the job well done. So our esteemed panelists here have gotten together, and they've decided who the winner of the Full Sail 24-hour remix competition is for 2015. And interestingly, they've decided that it's a tie. And so it's going to be a tie between William Hirsch and Sudeep Sinha. And let's give them a hand, first of all. And so now we want to give the guys actually an opportunity to provide some final comments to you guys.
So I'll just jump in. Either one of you could have won this had you addressed a few issues. So with William, the mix was your sort of downfall. Had your mix been tighter, you probably would have got it. And then with Sudeep, who I don't think is here, right? Is he? No. Just the dated sounds. The mix sounded great. It felt good. It moved. Both of them, the arrangements I felt were good, but just had some dated sounds. So had either of you addressed those issues, you probably would have won it. But great job to everybody.
Yeah.
What he said.
And again, thanks everybody for, it takes I'm not going to curse, it takes a whole lot of courage to do this, not just in front of your peers, but a lot of people are watching and listening. So I applaud you guys for having the courage to do that. It actually says something about your character in itself. So to all these people, thank you very much for letting us, sharing your music with us and letting us check it out.
What he said.
Great. Awesome. Well, as we close here, thank you guys for coming out, for attending, all of you guys for participating in the remix competition, and special thanks to Demo and Dylan and Swivel and Les and Phil here for all of your expertise and just taking time out to provide some feedback to our students. It really means a lot. So thank you guys. Thanks everyone for attending. Take care.